Hello sanibonani, dumelang senamkela kaloku kwinqubo yenu i-Expressions. Elimntomtsha liqonga lakho lokuba uzityande igila. Expressions is the name of the show. Well, following the recent incident that happened at Everton, Upper Gauteng, the parents had gathered outside the school to protest against crime after a grade 10 learner, Thabo Mputi, age 20, was stabbed to death on a Friday. Saying Expressions, we are asking you at home in Dokbana, are we doing enough to curb violence and gangsterism at our schools? Well, ndimlo ukholosaka lubisi unokanyezi.
Koskakhulu nonganyezi wall nacho Mzansi Africa. Hello and welcome to Expressions. Elabigama gendim uliyema vomisa. Now, with Expressions, we went straight to the ground to hear from the family of Thabo Mputi. And of course, dare I mention that we are deeply hurt as in Nguboye Expressions by the occurrence of gangsterism, which shortens the lives of learners and really jeopardizes their future. Now, take a look at this insert, which was prepared by our producer, Umzianda Bela. Touchdown Mogeliwe Expressions right here in Everton, Sebokeng, here to meet the family of Thabo Mputi, who was unfortunately stabbed at the Tarabollo Secondary School. And we are here to obviously try to find out some answers on behalf of the family. But for now, let's get inside and walk with me. Ndiyafuna ukwazi into kokuba uThabo ebengumntu onjani.
uThabo bekungumntana o-hyper, o-right, onika ihope, umjongile ukuthi uzimisele ngobomi. Bethanda into ezinhle, ethanda uNkulunkulu bemazi. Ethanda umculo kakhulu because simaniseke uba ubengaculela ikhwaya eyi-1 but bekuculela 2 yama-choirs esesikolweni ne-locally.
I want you to perhaps walk me through rather into kokubana kwenzeke ndoni.
It was around past 1 to 2 ngexesha lokuphuma kwesikolo Friday. Bafike abantwana bayi-3 baze apha kusisi wami endlini bathi nanku uThabo uhlatyiwe. Into yenzeke ngaphandle kweyadi yesikolo but distance encinci nje uba isuke egeyithini yesikolo. Sifike ke kodwa i-paramedics sithe xa zifika sezimthathe zamfaka phakathi kwi-ambulance zamxilongela phakathi eyadini yesikolo. Babe besithi asinawusondela because babisi basimise ecaleni. Azange kube kudala, like I believe ukuthi sifike thina sekulate asilenzanga ixesha ngendlela enibone ngayo. Ukuya kwami kwi-memorial service ndive nabanye abantu, meaning ndibe ne-information emore kunale bendinayo ngoThabo, so invisa kabuhlungu sixuthwe igolide esandleni.
Do you think abantwana bezikolo are they safe kwezi zikolo? Ingaba kungaqiniswa ndawoni?
Anoblame isikolo, akalimazwanga ngumntana wasesikolweni, ulimele ngaphandle, elinyazwa ngumuntu ongafundiyo, i-drop out. So I think xa singaqinisa kuqala umthetho udlale indima from kule i-case kaThabo, kungaze kuphinde kungabikho enye ifamily ezawufana nathi after yonke lento.
Yini baba from here going forward ongafisa ukuyibona yenzakala ikakhulukazi masikhuluma ngohulumeni wala?
Mina ngifuna nje uhulumeni angenzele umusa. Lo oyenze lento le atsheziswe. Ilento engiyifuna.
Well, very sad indeed as, you know, we uncover and really unpack that particular insert. I mean, unfortunately, this is what we are going through as Mzansi Africa, particularly at schools. But now to, of course, help me unpack this topic a little bit further, I have the honor and pleasure of being joined rather in studio by Matakanye, who is the General Secretary of the National Association of School Governing Bodies. And of course, Uputi Uxolani Fakude is representing SATU. Asbingelele, thanks very much for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much, Lilian. Let's greet you. Let's greet the viewers as well.
Thank you very much. I think that, let me even start with you when I put Kolani. I mean, walk me through from Satu's perspective in Tokokba, how did we even get to this violence and gangsterism happening at schools?
As I greet Upratax affectionately, because we work very closely, Satu with the NASGB. In actual fact, one of the programs that we work on, very key programs, what we call the I Am a School Fan campaign, which is really about collaboration. The question is, how did we get here? We can say, Liam, in our view as a union, is that we no longer are, in actual fact, coming up with a collaborative enough approach in terms of how we deal with violence, both in and outside our schools. Remember what we see happening here. When you see a 20-year-old, may his soul rest in peace, our condolences to the family, a 20-year-old losing his life under those particular circumstances. It happens just outside the schools. It happens in communities. This is also a microcosm of the communities. That is why we are saying, we will always say as a union, that it can only be through a collaborative approach through which we can try to push back against some of these issues. Because at the end of the day, Liam, as teachers, we will tell you that the schooling environment is our work environment, and we want to feel safe.
I think, Brad Dax, let me get to you with this particular question, just speaking on Upot Kolani, what he's talking about. He's talking about fostering some sort of collaboration in all stakeholders involved. Perhaps singazama njani ke ngokukwenza that collaboration to actually bear fruit.
Thank you so much, Liam. Our deepest heartfelt condolences to the family of Tau. We are really working hard with SATU. SATU has got a program called I Am a School Fan. National Association of School Governors have got a program called The Power of Parents. So we are collaborating with them to ensure that we minimize this scourge, because we realize that now this violence that is occurring in schools is over and above the Department of Education, even the police, the Department of Police. So for us to stop it, it is us and SATU with these two programs. That program that will talk to the community, because all these things are emanating from the community. The gang violence does not fermented in schools, it's fermented in the communities. And another reason for that is unemployment, inequality, and poverty. And these things are not in schools, they are within the community. So, but it's not really an excuse that poverty, inequality, and unemployment, then therefore, there must be gangsterism. And this gangs that are in the community, they must go to schools and kill our children. It is not that good. Then we are saying the project, as Kolani has indicated, to collaborate. I Am a School Fan. Parent power must make sure that they strengthen and say enough, it is enough. Because really, we have always said enough is enough, looking upon the police and say police will stop this. So it is above police. So it is us from the community side, the teachers themselves collaborating and stop this thing. So we feel the I Am a School Fan, power of parents, then collaborating, then we'll stop this thing.
I think speaking actually on that aspect, when Upot Kolani, he talks about the power of parents and all of these initiatives that are being done. I think from the SATU perspective now, just enlighten me perhaps on Indima Emelba Idlalwa with the teachers, because they are there at the schools. Ingaba mhlambe bona, how can they try to sort of pick up their socks or pull up their socks and also try to instill some sort of discipline amongst the children, because like Upradax was saying, that this is something that happens from the communities. But unfortunately, it comes into the classroom as well. So Itirindima, what's the role of the parents who are teachers in this case, and how can they even try to educate the learners?
You correctly, as education workers, as teachers, we do have a role as well to play in this context. However, in reality, that an issue like discipline, you cannot limit it only to between the teacher and the learner. Now, some of the best performing education systems in the world, they've got one common characteristic, which is increased parental involvement. The reason we even call this campaign the I Am a School Fan, it's about you taking an individual responsibility, knowing that when you are a fan of an institution, you will make sure that you defend that particular institution. Now, whilst we've got a role as well in terms of discipline, there is still also the school management teams. There is still also parents as well. Pratax here will agree with me when I say that there are times whereby parents' meetings would be called them, would be in that parents' meeting, and there would be more teachers than even parents themselves in a parents' meeting. Now, it therefore is about how then do we then carry on the conversation. We should not wait for another table. By the way, this is a conversation that we must have consistently. Just last week, Friday, in commemoration of Mandela Month, I went to a school, OR Tambo Secondary in Katlehong. The principal tells me there that since the schools reopened this year, they've already had 4 criminal incidences. Now, these are young people who are using Nyaupe, who come into these schools. They steal these screens that you see here. Where do they sell them? They sell them in the communities. They don't go and sell them somewhere else. So we are saying that as communities, our communities must be the first and the last line of our schools, because this is our future.
This is our future, most certainly. Unfortunately, I have to take a quick commercial break. Well, we really are continuing with having this really important and really pertinent issue, talking about gangsterism and also violence happening at schools. And of course, the insight you saw there is really disheartening. But for now, let's quickly go to a net break. I beg your pardon. This is Expressions. Stay with us.
Welcome back. You are still watching Expressions up Phambili SABC 1. We are still talking about violence and gangsterism at our schools. Well, Expressions, we are asking you, is enough being done to curb the violence and gangsterism at our schools? To help me unpack this discussion, I'm joined also by COSA's Provincial Deputy Secretary Usipiwe Manani Kunyikalogu ne Councillor Yapana Springs Uvusi Ramushaba. Welcome to Expressions, right?
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
We're fine, ma'am.
I am also good. Vusi, I want to start with you because, I mean, you are a ward councillor, and as here in Dogbana, these occurrences are quite prominent on the ground. Ungasinabisela nje and also give a clear picture kumbukeli Dogbana kwenza kantoni kanye kanye.
No, thank you very much. Indeed, gangsterism is a common occurrence, especially in Sidibeng. You know, gangsterism, you know, has been camouflaged by the young kids that are going through initiation schools. And when they come back, you know, they come back, you know, being initiated with gangsterism, you know. So it's very prevalent in our communities, you know. And we would like to, you know, to ensure that we speak to all stakeholders and the law enforcement in ensuring that they have a collaborative effort, you know, including parents, because parents are living with these kids. They see changes, you know, they sometimes identify themselves with clothing, jewelry, and all of that. So it needs a collaborative effort, not only the teachers, you know. Yeah.
They did mention on the table that we really need collaborative effort. And I want to come to you, Spiwe, because, I mean, you are part of COSAS and you work a lot with students. And one would think, I mean, why are we seeing this high number of young people involving themselves in gangsterism? Especially, I mean, now that we prepare exams, one would think into bana genene bazosilela, especially with exams. I mean, what would you say are some of the contributing factors that really influence young people to join gangsterism? Because now it seems like they want to identify or rather claim their identity.
Thanks, Sis Kolisa. Look, the major contributing factor to what we see in our schools, the huge gangsterism in our schools, the contributing factor is our communities, because what happens in our communities is a result of what happens in our schools. So in our communities, there are gangsters, which we know, and scholars look at them, they are motivated by their ways of doing things, and they come to school and practice that. So I think the major contributing factor is our communities. Yeah.
And Glue community, we understand that yesterday you had a meeting with the parents and the principal, and you watched earlier on Gogbe State in Dobana, parents are sort of blaming the principal. Has anyone been arrested because the CF in Dogbana, the perpetrator, is roaming on the streets? He's not showing any remorse?
We had a meeting last week, not yesterday, it was last week, a meeting of stakeholders, the police, Department of Education, and the parents, just to explain to the parents what happened on the incident on the day that Thabo was stabbed. And the parents did understand how the event took place. But the nice thing about it is that the parents are willing, to work hand in hand to be part and parcel of ensuring that they secure the school, they do patrols, working together with the crime prevention wardens, and on daily basis they appear, they come to school, do daily search. So it's becoming better, now they understand the collaboration.
And I really hope naba bapatrolayo, it's abazopatrola only now, but bahlale bekhona to prevent such. Ndifuna ukugqibezela ngawe Mdasekhaya. I mean, do you feel that the programs that are put in place are effective? Because they did mention on the table in Dogbana, they do have recommendations in place. Do you think they are effective?
No, the programs are not effective because we are having a huge increase in gangsterism in our schools and violence. So part of the things which the government should do in order to curb the increasing gangsterism in our schools, I mean, the government should have control over the print and electronic media, because part of these things, we see them on our TikToks, our Instagrams, they are all there over social media. So, and also
I'm so sorry, because of time, I'm going to have to cut you.
No
but we're definitely going to continue with this discussion on our social media pages. Thank you so much for joining us. Right, Mbukeli wam ngenxa yexesha funeka sithi qhwi evenkileni. Qiniseka into yokubana you do interact with us on our social media platforms. What do you have to say about today's discussion? Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome back in Mbukeli Expressions. So thanks very much for staying with us right here on SABC 1. Now, as we wrap up this conversation that we are talking about in Namhlanje, talking about really violence and gangsterism that is happening in our schools all around the country. And of course, I'm still joined by our guests as Koyoke Apa Studio. I mean, let's talk about, or perhaps shift the conversation now and get to interventions. I mean, on the other side of Kolos, I was talking to Spiwe representing Kosas, and Spiwe mentioned something that is very important. He said the programs that are being initiated by government and other stakeholders are not effective. Perhaps what should be done then? What sort of interventions can be done to try and ensure that these programs actually do bear fruit?
Ultimately, what is important, Liema, is that the lead department, the Department of Basic Education, along other departments, have got specific roles as well to play in this case. For instance, when we talk about schools being safer, it also has to do about the basic infrastructure that needs to be there. For instance, we know that there are certain interventions that are called upon, elements that need to be there by some of the school safety frameworks. But then now, do we fund public education adequately and sufficiently enough such that this can be implementable? But ultimately, Lema, what we want to emphasize is that it is extremely important to approach this in a very collaborative manner. We are saying that let every individual South African see themselves as school fans. These people, these thugs who disrupt the education of our children, who disrupt our workplaces as education workers as well, they stay there in our communities.
Yes, but Dax, as we wrap this conversation, I wanna bring to you this a very important question. Perhaps in the foreseeable future, do we see this violence and gangsterism as a thing of the past, in Mhlambi ingapela? And also, what interventions from your side do you think we should also put in place?
Of course, collaboration. Collaboration must be taken down to the communities. School governing bodies must be strengthened so that they must be able to organize communities, because school governing body is a center of communities. So through the school government, if you have a very strong school governing body, because the Department of Education has the role to ensure that the school governing body is strengthened, because you can't strengthen them if you don't have resources. They've got resources to ensure that now they strengthen it. And as we already said, that we are bringing parents, because if parents are strong, then they will strengthen the school governing bodies. So then the department must ensure that now we collaborate with school fan, the power of parent, and all those things to go down to the community. Because as we said, this is fermented in communities, as Kosa said.
Well, unfortunately, because of time, I'm going to have to cut it there. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. And hopefully, in the foreseeable future, we can, Kolosa, see that this violence and gangsterism at Kubayo Eskolweni will be a thing of the past. And that was, of course, the General Secretary, Utata Omatakanye, who is from the National Association of School Governing Bodies, and, of course, Kolani Fagude representing SATU, as we really talk about, talking about ukukeba, this violence that is happening at schools. But that's how we wrap it up, Kolosa.
That's how we wrap it up. And, I mean, let's all stand together to end gangsterism at our schools. Well, taking us out is
Urefilo Sedit is going to take us out, and her song is Amba. That's it from us. Thanks.
Ngizakudla ngamadolo ngiyaqe